All right, it's all yours, Katie.
So hi, my name is Katie Chumbley. I am a senior in high school and an ambassador in Girl Scouts. And to start off this interview, I'll ask the first question. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, well, I guess that comes to me. We'll just do it in alphabetical order. I'm Susanne Cetrulo. I'm a judge on the Kentucky Court of Appeals, but I'm a new judge. Before that, I was an attorney for almost 40 years, practicing law in front of Judge Ward, who you'll get to hear from next. So I tried a lot of cases to juries. I had a small business and with my husband in the last 25 years, worked with a bigger firm before that, and did a lot of different types of law. And then last year had an opportunity to get appointed to the Kentucky Court of Appeals, which is actually where I started my career back in the 1980s. I went to work for the first woman ever on the Court of Appeals. So I was her staff attorney, and last year with the vacancy in this court, I had an opportunity to return full circle to where I'd started my career. And so that's my new job, but I'm also therefore a candidate to keep my position because judges are elected in Kentucky. So I'll be on the ballot in November. So I'm a candidate, I'm an attorney. My most important thing about me though is I'm a mom and a grandma and a wife of almost 40 years, and just feel very blessed to have this opportunity to talk to all you young women.
So my name is Julie Ward. I'm a circuit judge in Campbell County. I have been married to my husband, Mark, for about 26 years. I think that's right. I have two children. They're not kids anymore, two adults, an 18-year-old and a almost 21-year-old. And like Susanne, I was an attorney first, and then I ran for office. I became a circuit judge. Circuit judges handle cases in which we have criminal cases in which a defendant could be facing up to a year or death penalty, and then civil cases in which there's more than $5,000 in monetary dispute. And I've been doing that for about 18 and a half years.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be and why?
I always used to say North Carolina because I love the mountains and the beach. And that felt like that had both. But, you know, the older I get, I want to be wherever my kids and my grandkids are.
Yeah. And for me, you know, I've traveled a bit, but Kentucky is my home. And I feel safe here. It's where my church family is. It's where my family is. I just think it's a beautiful state and feel blessed to be here.
What would you describe as a personal perfect day for you?
I still love the sun. So I guess a day sitting by the pool so you can get cool, but a nice hot summer day with a good book.
And so for me, the perfect day is just to be able to get up whenever I get up, which is not usually my routine. So get up, enjoy just a nice time with my family. I always feel super close to God when I'm hiking on a nice fall day in the woods. So I'd love to go to Gatlinburg, something like that, hike in the woods with my family, you know, have a nice dinner and, you know, go to bed at a decent time.
How do you balance your career, personal life, and passions?
Well, being an attorney for all the years that I did really gave me an opportunity to do something that I'm very passionate about, which is help people. You know, I get teased a lot, or used to when I was practicing law, that I would get so close to some of my clients, but I really did just take every case very personally, and that's kind of how I balance it, I guess. My passion became helping others. A big part of my practice, or the part that I was most passionate about, was doing adoptions. I got to meet wonderful families, hundreds of families, and place children with them who needed families. And so that gave me passion and fulfillment, even though it was work. I think balancing the two is probably more difficult for your generation than ours, because you can't turn all the digital devices and contacts off. But that was always the struggle for me, was just being able to then turn off work and be just alone or with family. But you know, I did have that great career, I feel like, where I was able to do things that I was very passionate about.
And so for me, balancing it, I guess it's just making sure you have your priorities straight. I always try to remember God, family, friends, and career is probably last. It's not because it's not important. It's just not who I am. I'm, Julie Ward first. I am, have a relationship with God. My family is super important. So if you could just make sure that you get your priorities straight, then everything else sort of falls into place. And really, honestly, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but try not to feel guilt about not being everything at all times, meaning, you just can't be the best at everything. So probably we'll talk about that in a little bit my last question that I get asked, but that's how I stay balanced, is just to make sure I keep my priorities straight.
So to kind of build off that, what motivates you to work hard?
Again, just, being able to do the things that I love to do, being able to help people, being able to travel, which is another thing that I love doing, being able to provide for my family, all those things motivate you. And you know that you can't do those things unless you work hard.
And so for me, I guess my parents always taught me just a strong work ethic. I could see really from growing up that although my mom and dad, they weren't college students, they were able to do well for themselves by just working hard. They didn't come from money, but just I could always see that hard work really did pay off. So I guess that was just instilled in me, that a strong work ethic. And then what motivates me, I guess, to continue to strive to do well is like Susanne said, I mean, we're trusted, the public trusts us, we're elected officials. They're counting on us to be dependable and honest, counting on us to do a good job. And so I take that trust very seriously and try to do my best that I can.
So what does leadership mean to you, and what is your leadership style?
I think it's evolved a lot as I've got older. When I was your all's age, I thought leadership meant signing up for everything and trying to do everything, trying to be everything for everyone. I've learned, obviously, that's not true leadership. I think the real key to leadership is compassion and kindness to others, but also recognizing that you need to delegate and give those people an opportunity to shine, to give the people that are following you, for lack of a better term, an opportunity to grow. And so that's really become my style, is to try and prove that, I'm part of the team and I do work hard, but to engage others so that they can reach their full potential.
Yeah, I think Susanne is absolutely correct. The older you get, I think the more you realize how very important it is to make sure that you're striving to lift others up. It really becomes more about others than yourself as you get older. So I think that a good leader is someone who is a person who will do their very best to make sure that others have an opportunity to succeed. Doesn't mean that you don't have expectations on people. It doesn't mean that you give them passes. It just means that you give them opportunities to succeed. And probably my style is more like democratic, same as Suzanne's. I'm the final decision maker, but at the same time, I will assign tasks to my staff and to others and expect that they'll meet the obligations and expectations I have. And then I'll have them come in and we'll have a lot of discussions about, their opinions and ideas. But at the end of the day, I am the final decision maker. So yeah, I think Suzanne's right on point.
So what quality do you think makes a great leader? And is there a particular leader you look up to, and why?
Well, I referenced earlier, I started my career working for the first woman ever in the appeals court in the whole state of Kentucky. Back then, judicial robes didn't come in women's sizes. So we've come a long way, ladies. So I've tried to emulate her. She just, there was a different generation. She was probably more feminine than maybe some younger women attorneys are nowadays. I don't mean that to sound unkind, but I learned from that you can be feminine, you can be gracious, and you can still be a strong leader. So she was really my mentor and hero, and that's the way I tried to lead.
And I guess for me, a leader, I would have an expectation that someone is an independent thinker. I think more and more today in today's society, we're losing that. We're losing that ability to be independent thinkers because we're relying on the TV, or we're relying on Google, or relying on Wikipedia, or whatever the case may be, to tell us how to think. And I think a good leader is someone who has the ability to think independently, that they also have the ability to be honest, a good listener, someone who's humble. Doesn't mean that humility is a lack of confidence, because you definitely need good confidence, but it just means that you're willing to be able to admit when you are wrong and hear somebody else's opinion. So that, I think that is good qualities of a leader. I learned those things from my dad. My dad was a state legislator for over 20 something years. And, he really like I said, he really came from nothing. And just watching him really care for others, watching how he would, take calls from citizens at all times of the days and nights. We would be at restaurants and he would make sure that he would always stop and take time to listen to what other people had to say, or he would, ask questions, or he'd follow through. But he was very humble, and realized, how blessed he really was. And so I guess he's probably the person I most looked up to. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but I think about him all the time.
So what does it mean to be a good citizen?
Well, a Girl Scout. Seriously, being kind, contributing to society, using your gifts, whatever they may be. We've all got something that we're good at. All the things that you all are doing as Girl Scouts is to me being a good citizen. And the exciting thing about your organization for all the years it's been around is that it does give girls and women an opportunity to become the real leaders in our future generations. And Julie and I are both the product of, I'm a little older than her, but she's been a judge longer than me. We're both the product of women who came before us and made it possible for us to have the opportunities that we've had. And that's such a big part of being a good citizen is just contributing to society with the gifts you have.
Yeah, again, I agree with Susanne. It's being engaged. It's so, I wouldn't say so easy, but, sometimes I hear younger girls today say, it's just so hard. And, it's, I guess, just don't want to participate because you hear so many negative things, whether it's on social media, whether it's on TV. I could see how easy it would be to want to disengage, but that's not our job as good citizens. Our job as good citizens is to engage, to listen to what our politicians are doing, even at the local level, making sure that you're watching the bills that are being introduced at the local level, making sure that you have an understanding that who your legislators are, what they do. Those are all good things of being a citizen. But as Susanne said, I think at the end of the day, it's really just treating others the way you want to be treated, making sure that you're caring for your fellow citizen. That's probably my idea of a good citizen.
To kind of build on engagement, what is an example of civic engagement?
Well, being engaged, being on boards, volunteering. There are so many things for young people to get involved in now. I think more so again than when I was in high school or college. Of course, there are internships and things like that now more than there used to be too, but just being involved in your community helps you grow, but it also I think it makes the whole world a better place. The more we are involved, the more we can see that there are people with maybe different systems, values, different backgrounds, but that we're all Americans and that we're all part of the bigger world, that we all are trying to do the best we can under our individual circumstances. So I just think it's really important to serve somehow in your community with your church or with Girl Scouts, or I know one of the questions we're going to talk about is voting, and oh my gosh, please get involved in the democratic process, because that is so crucial to the success and the future of our country.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something large. I think sometimes people I know when my boys were younger, they while they were in high school and middle school, they had to volunteer so many hours. It was a requirement at their school. And we talked a lot about that, whether it was a requirement or not a requirement. It's just something that we should be doing. And they're like, well, what do we do? What can we do? And it's just, it could be as simple as, walking down your road and you see trash in the community. It could be just as simple as going out and get a garbage can or a garbage bag and picking up your trash. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It's amazing how just little things that you can do that really can change someone's life and inspire them. So just like Susanne said, getting engaged, being kind, again, thinking about others. To me, honestly, if we could really start doing that more often, thinking about what other people need versus our own needs, I think it will go a long way.
Well, speaking of voting, why is it so important for all eligible adults to vote in every election?
Well, again, things seem, and this may be part of my age, but it seems like we're so divided and it's so adversarial and controversial when you watch one channel and then you watch another channel and everybody's, got these sound bites and, chattering about the other side. And, I think if you're engaged in the voting process and in democracy, if you take the time to get involved in a campaign for anyone, I am a candidate, I'm not advocating anybody to join me, but get involved in the process and then vote. The people that make the most noise are often the people who aren't engaged in that process and they don't know the candidates or the elected officials. And if you get involved in the process, or you at least take the time to read up about them and learn what you can and then vote, I don't think you're going to be as loud and grumpy about whatever the outcome is, because you'll know that voters made that decision and that's what makes our country great. And you would respect that. So that's why I think it's important that everybody be involved. And it really worries me that the numbers are going down and down and down on voter engagement. I'd love to hear from you all about, what you think it will take to get your generation to vote more.
Yeah, and this may be a shocking answer, but do I think that every eligible voter should vote? Probably not. And I'm going to explain that because I think that sometimes people will go into, a voter booth and they just vote because someone told them how to vote. That's not being engaged. That's not doing your civic duty. Doing your civic duty is to make sure if you're going to vote for someone, you have an understanding of why you're going to vote for them. And when you do have that understanding, I think you really know the person better. It's not just, Mom, who should I vote for? Dad, who should I vote for? It really is learning about the candidate, finding out what they stand for, looking at their record. If a candidate is making campaign promises that they never fulfill, then you should be considering that. Is that an honest individual? Is that someone who's representing my interests? Is that someone who cares about me? Because really that is what is happening when you vote for someone. You're supposed to be voting for someone who represents your interests, who is going to be protecting your interests and not just, not just giving lip service. So, I know that's difficult. I know a lot of politicians do make promises and they don't keep them, but I still think that there's some really good people out there who run for office, but you're not going to know who they are if you just vote because someone told you how to vote. So a lot of voters vote like that. And I would wish they would not. I would wish they would just stay home and not vote at all. So don't be persuaded how to vote unless you're confident on who you're voting for. So, but it is so extremely important because it impacts every single aspect of our life. And I think people don't really see that. I think life is the same, whether it's this president or that president. And as the older I get, I see that that is just not true. It really does matter significantly who you're voting for. So.
Yeah. Going ahead and shifting into future generations, what do you believe will be the biggest challenge for the next generation of female leaders behind you, and what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest challenge is going to be, what are you going to do with the power that you now have that women didn't have in the past? I really do believe there are going to be more and more women leaders. We just have to be wise with what we do with that. And I'm not saying the guys messed it up, but I do, I look forward to what changes might come. I think some of women's strengths are our ability to see both sides, to maybe compromise more often, and you know, those are all traits that, again, are part of good leadership, but they may change the way some things happen. Now, you know, it still has to be a good person, and they still have to have the principles and the beliefs that, you know, we were just talking about when you're voting for that person. I'm not saying vote woman over man every time, but I do just think that the challenge for women leaders is going to be to use that power wisely, to, you know, continue to affect the changes that we need to make our country even greater.
Yeah, and I say my answer with a little reservation, I guess, because I don't want it to be taken the wrong way, but I think women are hard on each other. You know, I think that was something that I experienced in my life, and I still think that it's fairly true today. We're very judgmental of each other. You know, I think men do that less for some reason. I don't know why, but we are very hard on each other. I remember when I was had young children, I was dropping them off preschool, and, you know, moms would say, hey, do you want to have a play date, you know, at 11 o'clock in the morning? And I'd say, well, no, I'm dropping off, but the babysitter is picking up. And they'd be like, oh, well, we were going to go scrapbooking, but you can't make it. And then I would go to work, and then people would say, well, Julie, could you participate in a Saturday all-day mock trial, you know, as a judge? And I'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't. And they'd like, oh, you know, you're not available. So, you know, so it just really felt like a lot of times in my career that I was torn on, you know, trying to do all of it and then feeling guilty that I wasn't doing maybe any of it well. And I think women have a lot of guilt like that. Maybe not so much as you younger girls, but I think you'll experience it more and more as you get older. And it just would have been nice if the mom who was scrapbooking said, well, we're going to do it at 5 o'clock tomorrow too, you can be available. Or if the women who were my professional colleagues would have said, oh, we totally understand. And I think we women, if we could be more supportive of each other and encourage each other more, I do think that we'd be stronger leaders, and would be more powerful. So I think that's still going to be a struggle for you all as you go forward, is that, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm quite a bit older than you all, but that was my experience. I asked a couple people and they were like, I don't know. And so that was my answer. But again, I was asking people about my age. So I'm not sure the younger generation.
No,
you know.
I'm really glad you shared that, Julie, because that's been one of my overriding statements lately, is that, you know, women are so hard on other women, and that makes it very hard for women candidates. We've seen that, you know, on the national stage, and we certainly see it in our own lives. I do hope that's better with your generation. I hope that you don't put that on each other, and that you just support and encourage one another, because that's the most important thing we can do for each other.
Yeah, Suzanne, when I was running for office, so I was pregnant, and obviously a position came open. It wasn't like planned, like I planned to get pregnant, and then the position came open as I was pregnant, and I would knock on some doors, and some doors in Campbell County would be, you know, very modest homes, and I would have people answer the door, men and women, who would basically almost be disgusted with me that I would be running for office as a pregnant woman, that I should be staying home and raising my children. But I also experienced some of that when I was in higher end homes. And some people would say the same sort of similar thing, but then I would get so many people who would say something different, you know, that would just be so encouraged and so, I guess, just impressed that I would be out there in a hot sun, about 40 pounds heavier than I normally am, running for office. But I hope that we can eliminate some of that as women, and be strong together. I think we're a very powerful group of people. I think, like Suzanne said, I think that we have a lot of qualities that really a lot of qualities that make us better at certain things than men, honestly. And that's not to be a negative towards men. I think men are awesome. I love my husband. I think he's great. I've got 2 boys, and I think they're going to do great in the world too. But anyway, thanks for asking the question.
So that was my last question. So thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. And I'm really glad that you all touched about the guilt that women have in the workplace and with family. I know we're really hard on ourselves, so definitely just encouraging each other would be wonderful. So thank you all for that. And for encouraging our girls to get engaged and sharing some simple ways that they can do that. So I really appreciate you, Suzanne and Julie, for being here. I know it's a super busy time for you all with the campaign, so best of luck to you both. And Katie, thank you so much for being here. I know school just started and it's hectic, so we really appreciate you being here today and making some time. And thank you to everyone who was able to pop on and join the conversation. It was wonderful to meet everybody. And again, we did record this session, so it will be going out on YouTube and our Facebook page. So please share it with anybody that you think would like to watch. Have a great evening, and thank you guys again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
y'all.